Welcome to Passionate World Talk Radio Network, to enlighten, to educate, to entertain. And today, PWTRN is proud to sponsor the Podcasting Obstacle webinar for all people, whether they're beginners, intermediates, or experts at podcasting, and middle and high school students. They are going to learn the three topics that are very much a part of podcasting and that every potential podcaster must know in order to present, distribute, and create a very successful, extraordinary podcast. I am your host, Lillian Caldwell, the CEO and president of Passionate World Talk Radio Network. So, what do you need to know? Well, the first thing you need to know is that when you podcast, you make your mark on the world. In fact, you become an influencer, a resource, and someone your audience can depend on to give them information that they lack, that they want to know more about, or they have a passion for and may even join you when you're presenting your podcast. In other words, a podcast business and enrich your personal life through the power of what you can do, because a podcast can travel anywhere, and outer space to the National Space Station, to the moon where people are carving it up. In fact, they're planning on putting Eastern, Mountain, Pacific, European times on the moon. You watch it. In a few years, there will be telegraph poles up there, because it means everyone and anyone can listen to what you have to say, whether you agree to disagree or not. So you have the power to podcast, and you're going to learn how to create a universal difference and leave a ripple behind in a universal community. We will explore the art of podcasting beyond the basics, discover how discipline, research, and continuous practice can elevate your podcast from ordinary to extraordinary. It's not about what podcasting can do for you. It's about what you can do for your listening audience. So today's webinar then is going to introduce you to three basic topics: the 7 C's of communication: clear, concise, concrete, correct, coherent, courteous, complete. Also introduce you to the topic of the art of the interview, giving an interview and also being interviewed in return, and remembering the 5 W's: who, what, where, when, and why, and sometimes how, but it's not a W, but it's something you should keep in mind. And then the last one is very important, is mastering your people skills. Because if you don't really have good skills to get along with other people, then what your message is landing on deaf ears. And the idea is to build a continuous audience once you start podcasting. So let us start with the first, the 7 C's of communication. So you're probably asking yourself, what are the 7 C's of communication? The 7 C's, the first one is clear. You want to craft your message with clarity. Be concise, and avoid street jargon or slang, because not everyone in the audience will be able to understand you. You want to be understood immediately. You do not have time for complicated definitions or explanations. 2, concise. Get to the heart of your content. Respect your audience's time. Don't dance around the maypole, folks. You have something to say it. Say what you mean what you say. Get it out. 3, concrete. Use vivid examples and relatable stories. You know that Abraham Lincoln was quite famous for telling stories to make a point. In fact, when the Bible was written, they also used parables or stories to get a point across so the people who are listening could relate to the story and understand exactly what was being said. Correct. Make sure you fact check and ensure accuracy. Using statistics, make sure they're the right ones. In fact, you want to provide a link back to the source where you did get your stats. It's called a copyright, but you learn that in the training. Coherent. Organize your thoughts logically. When you go and prepare your podcast or write a paper or present a story, you always have an intro, a beginning, a middle, which is supported by facts, figures, quotes, and an ending where you round up everything you've just said to prove a point, and then you have that point proven, and you remind people this is what the whole exercise was all about in the first place. Courteous. Be respectful and considerate. Don't talk down at your people. Don't talk at your listening audience. Include them in what you have to say. Have them identify with you. Have them brand with you. And most importantly, talk so that they want to stick around and hear what you have to say. Therefore, they are investing their time with you, and in return, you are investing your time with them. Completeness. Make sure you cover all relevant aspects of what you're going to say. Some people write down keywords and key phrases. Other people have 3x5 cards. Some people just memorize enough to get them going. But however you do it, make sure you start at the letter A and work methodically B, C, D, all the way to the end of the alphabet. Those are the 7 C's of communication, and you will use them in whatever you're doing, whatever you're writing a speech, a term paper, a story. Everything has a beginning, a middle, and an end. The art of the interview. And you're saying to yourself, well, that's real easy. All you have to do is ask questions. Well, not exactly. First of all, there are a couple of rules you have to. Or advice or a practical how-to. Make sure they know their material. When I interviewed people down at several conventions, I found that people did not read their material before they arrived for their interview. You have to come across as an expert in your field or as an influencer. Therefore, you need to practice what you're going to say. Do it in front of a mirror, do it in front of your dog or cat, drag your brothers and sisters in there, get some of your friends, but practice, and then practice fielding questions from your audience, because not all the material you're going to share with the listening audience, they're going to understand it the first time around, and they may ask you to clarify. And when you're doing this, make sure you understand that when you are invited on another podcast to be interviewed, the same rules apply to you. Make sure you know your material thoroughly. Review it. Read it the night before. Practice answering questions. Ask yourself questions and then answer it. Try not to put, like an and in there, because and walk into a brick wall and everybody will stop listening to you. Sometimes, as a host, you can ask them to prepare their questions ahead of time and email them to you. However, that's not always a sure policy, because sometimes people lose their place and they forget what they're going to ask. And as a result, you don't get asked the questions you expected to hear. So just make sure you are prepared for the interview, whether you're giving one or receiving one. Mastering your interpersonal skills. People skills matter. You know the old saying, if you don't like yourself or love yourself, nobody else will like you or love you either. And that's true. People know when you're at conflict or having an argument with yourself, or you're not properly prepared, or you're not sure of your material. And it comes across when you're either speaking or you're standing up and speaking in front of the camera. The video lies everything bare. The camera sees everything, and so does the microphone. The microphone hears everything. So if you want your potential audience to pay attention, make sure that you approach them with friendliness, with your personality, to convince them that you're more than capable of respecting them and understanding why they're investing their time for them to be listening to you anywhere from 15 to 120 minutes. So this is for this empowerment and podcasting excellence. One of the things you need to remember with all three is that you are establishing a working relationship with your audience. And also make sure they understand that they will learn new skills, they'll get a new perspective on something, and maybe even change their mind, because that's what podcasting is. It's not just solely entertainment. You're working with a family because your listeners will become your family. They are your peers. Most people who are listening to Passionate World Talk Radio are from 40 plus to 137, depending if you live a good life. Something for you to think about. And then the group dynamics. You listen to speakers. They'll tell you if they get a rush of energy and positivity from their audience, that spurs them on to be bigger and better things. And the same thing will be true with podcasting. Why do you want a podcast? Well, it's a journey of preparation for anything that you do in your life. You will learn to manage your time, and you will learn how to use verbs, not adjectives, not nouns, but action verbs to get your point across. It's beyond reading a script and memorizing. You want to talk with feeling. Your voice is your voice body language, only it's in your voice. You want to convince them that you know the information and you can share it with them. And should they have questions, they can come to you. So you become an influencer for them. Make sure you pick a good topic to speak about. Niche it down. Choose your approach. There are many different ways to present a podcast. Present one that's going to speak not only to you, but to your audience. Make sure you do your research and that you put a unique spin so that it's wholly your own. And only use other people's words, and make sure you put down the quotes where you get these words from, because Facebook, YouTube, and many of the other social media networks are now checking to see whether or not you have stolen these words or used them without permission. And one of the things you need to learn how to do is try to do your podcast at least 2 or 3 days before they are due, because it takes time to research the information, organize your thoughts, and then write up the script. Interested? Have I piqued your curiosity? Go over to education.passionateworldtalkradio.com/masterclass, where PWTRN offers the podcasting obstacle training course for students and adults of all levels and all ages, whether you're a beginner, an intermediate, or even an expert. Sign up for the course. The course takes 2 months. The first half of the course, which is approximately 45 minutes, the first 15 minutes material, the last part of the session is when the student gets up and actually puts to work what they have just been trained to do or taught. So please, again, go over to education.passionateworldtalkradio.com/masterclass and sign up today, because podcasting is more than just speaking into a microphone. Thank you very much for joining me this afternoon. You can review this webinar all over again at youtube.com/Passionate World Radio, PW Talk Radio. You can also go over to passionateworldtalkradio.com, and you can also listen on facebook.com/Passionate World Radio and all major social media outlets, LinkedIn, Twitter, Tumblr, iHeart. It's all there, folks. So thank you very much for joining me this afternoon. And remember, influence the world with what you know and don't get left behind. Thank you.